Your reminder was coming.
Thank you. So what we want to do is we want to hear from you desperately, but we would prefer if you put it in the Q&A. If you put your comments in the Q&A, it's a lot easier for us to monitor and to manage. So we'll try to watch the chat, but please use the Q&A throughout the evening to offer up your questions. Alrighty, so to get started, I'd like to introduce our panel moderator, who is Jordan Thomas. Jordan is a mechanical engineering senior here at VCU. He's already completed a co-op at Westrock in their manufacturing environment, and from there went to Fiat Chrysler Auto, which we call FCA, where he interned in manufacturing in the summer of 2019. And then last summer with COVID, was lucky enough to do a virtual internship also with FCA. So with that, Jordan, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you for having me, Laura, and thank you to all the guests that are on the call, including our panelists. Kind of like Laura said, we're just going to explore into the topic of automotive. I'm very excited to hear about each one of your past. And you guys heard enough about me, so just jumping into each of you guys. Can you guys just say, guys and girls, gals? Can you guys and gals just introduce yourselves, major, background, and just like a brief role what you're doing with your independent companies, so we can all know what you're up to. Any particular order?
I can start. My name's Bob Salami. I work for Honda R&D, which is about 40 minutes outside of Columbus, Ohio. So I graduated from VCU in 2010. And yeah, so I've been out at Honda 10 years now, or just coming up on my 10 year, and I do crash testing. We split crash testing up into front crash or front side and rear. So I do front crash testing. Yep, that's what I've been doing ever since I graduated.
I'll go. Yeah, my name is Hamid Golgiri. I'm an engineer at Ford in Michigan, so it's Southeast Michigan. I graduated VCU 2016 with electrical engineering. I had a concentration in computer engineering, actually. And I'm in research and advanced, they call it, engineering. It's kind of like R&D, same thing. Working on like early concepts, developing early concepts so that they're getting mature enough to start putting in the vehicle. Gone through several different roles at Ford. Like there's like a rotational program when you start at Ford, and I went through that, and I finished that a couple of years ago, and I've been there a total of 4 years now. But yeah, really like it.
Thanks. I'll go next. Good evening, everybody. My name is Alex Mataloni. I graduated VCU in May of 2019 with a degree in mechanical engineering. Similar to Hamid, I'm at Ford as well in the Southeast Michigan area. I'm actually in that rotational program that he had mentioned. It's called the FCG program. So it's a 3-year program where you get to rotate through different departments at Ford to really get 3 years of different work experiences to kind of find what you like here. So my first rotation is in a part of Ford called STA. It stands for Supplier Technical Assistance. I kind of summarize it to people and say it's supplier quality, but it's a lot more than just supplier quality. It's developing the technologies that are going to help suppliers be able to track metrics such as OEE, jobs per hour. Basically, we're the bridge between Ford and our supplier base, and it's just ensuring that they're able to produce the commodities for us at the correct capacity, at the correct quantities, and at the quality that we expect at Ford. So, no, I just moved up here last year. Really been enjoying myself up here, and it's been great.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kiana Jackson. I work for General Motors. I am a recent graduate. So I graduated in May 2020, the class of COVID. So I have been working for GM for all of 3 months. So I'm very fresh into this. My role is a design release engineer for antennas. So that's basically, I work on all antennas on a specific vehicle and just making sure it's right before it goes out into the world. So I'm just very excited to be here and hope I can answer any questions you guys have.
Sounds good. Well, thank you everyone for introducing themselves. Laura, do we have any questions in the chat, or do you want to go with the?
We do have a question in the chat. Okay, we can start with this one. How about that? The question is, did any of you experience post-graduation depression? Like, was it hard to transition from the campus life into the work life. And also just a call out to, it's great to see a NSB at VCU alumni. This is from Angela.
I can answer. Let's see. I graduated in 2010, and at that time it was like the whole job market was still reeling from like the housing market crash, which was mostly like 07, 08. To the point where it's like when I was graduating, I was kind of debating like, do I want to go in the industry or kind of like weather the storm in academia? Yeah, so I mean, it was pretty tough to find a job, to be honest. It took me like 6 months of hunting. And yeah, yeah, I don't know. I guess I would just say, because I think a lot of you guys, depending on when you're going to graduate, I'm not sure what the job market is, but I'm guessing it's like with Rona, it's going to be, you know, maybe kind of challenging. But what I would say to that is, you know, it's like for me to actually get a job, it basically just took persistence. It was 6 months. Like I had to move back in with my folks, and I was like, back at home with my parents. And it was like 6 months of Monday through Friday. I would go down to the library down the street and then basically send out job applications, like 4 or 5 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And then it was something like 300 applications later, 12 telephone interviews, 3 face-to-face, boom, got the offer. So just keep at it for those of you that are getting ready to graduate. And then as far as like the post-graduation depression, I would say it's, you know, that'll be, yeah, you know, you're going from this time where it's like the most freedom, least responsibility to now it's like, it's on you to make the next thing happen. So, yeah, I guess one thing I would say or advice for that I used to always offer, which I don't know how applicable it is now, but it's like, take some time off before you get into that hunt is what I would say, to kind of chill out, decompress, relax. And I would used to always recommend, hey, go take like a 6-week, you know, Europe trip if you can, to you know, kind of help with that decompression. But yeah, I don't know how applicable it is now, you know, but good luck out there. Stay persistent.
Virtual trip. We do a virtual trip.
I guess I'll just say from my perspective, a post-graduation depression, I would just honestly say no. I think that, you know, the reason why you guys are here in school is so that you can get to this point. So I think that that workplace lifestyle is something to look forward to. Certainly when you're in college, you want to, you know, enjoy yourself, have fun experiences, meet new people. But, you know, you guys are putting in so much work. I mean, I've lived that and I know what that feels like. And to me, I always made sure that while I was in college, I just took that little bit of time to reach out to somebody or continue that networking process, because, you know, this is the goal. This is, it's called VCU Career Services. It's not called VCU Job Services. It's called Career Services because you want to, you know, the goal is to come out of college with a career, someplace where you could see yourself growing, not just in your job, but in your life, someplace where you could settle down. And I truly feel like I've found that here in Michigan. So personally, I don't feel any sort of depression. I think that all the work that I put in college and my persistence to say I wanted to be in automotive, and that was the key for me. I didn't settle for a general engineering position somewhere where I just thought, okay, I could do this for a little bit, see myself here for a year or two. I said, no, I wanted to be there and in the field I want to be working in from day one. And it was that persistence that allowed this transition, a big one. Moving from Virginia to Michigan was big. But the job and everything that this job has brought me and being here has made it all so worth it. So
I'll answer. First of all, hi, Angela. Hope all is well. The post-graduation depression, well, graduating in a pandemic, that's just depressing. We know why. But I think afterwards, when like Alex said, when you're in your field and in something that you enjoy, and just having a job, especially during this time, there's not too much to be sad about, because you get the opportunity to learn new things and grow. So I would say post-graduation excitement was real, or worries is a real thing, but As for depression, I think that that is something that you can overcome, because at the end of the day, you will find a job in your field and you'll do well, and just go from there. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll chime in. So actually, I got really lucky, and I lied earlier when I said I only know one other person from VCU, because my roommate is also from VCU, is one of my best friends. I forgot the obvious one, but we kind of accidentally both got jobs at Ford, and we moved up together. So I had like a buddy to be with, and like kind of like learn the area together. That's kind of maybe a rare thing. So, but also when we started, we hired in with a big class. So I think it was like 100 people hiring to the SG program at the time. And they're all people that are just getting out of college. So they're, about your age, and you can, it's easy to talk to those people and make friends. That's most of my friends to this day in Michigan are people I met during like the rotational program in the first, just the first like few months working at Ford. I mean, that's going to be different now, obviously, with COVID, but I would say do what you can to find people right away when you when you start, and that'll. I never had any kind of depression moving in. It was all excitement. Everything was like really interesting. It was sad leaving. Like I moved away from Virginia, like all my family and friends, and that was really really hard. But I wouldn't call it like depression. Like it was very exciting.
Well, thank you guys all for sharing. That was a really good question. I'm a senior, so I'm thinking like, all right, I'm just ready to get out of school. So I agree with Alex in the post depression. Like you said, we're here to get a career, and I'm trying to get some engineering money. It's another reason why we picked this field, even though we don't say it, but it probably is true. And just going into, you guys said a lot in your introductions, a lot of terms that people might not know. I think automotive is full of acronyms. I know you guys all have those sheets of acronyms that you need to memorize and just understand in those meetings. Just wanted you guys to explore the type of work, just describe in further detail the functions of work that you're in, the roles and like responsibility, and just share any projects that you guys and gals are all working on.
Start. So first I'll say it's hard for me to like share a lot just because I'm in research, so everything is like 5 years out. But I can talk about like a project that I worked on like right when I started at Ford that is actually in production now. But yeah, so I'm an engineer in RNA at Ford. I work on mostly electronic and electrical features. I'm responsible for like managing projects and developing concepts. So that includes like brainstorming at the very beginning, forming the concepts, writing requirements and specifications, doing design failure mode and effects analysis, and developing prototypes. So taking projects through these gateways of different levels of progress up until the point that you're ready to hand it off to what we call core engineering. I'm actually in a somewhat unique role in that I get to do like partially systems engineering, and I partially get to actually develop like software. So that's like really interesting. That's one thing I really like about my work. Typical week, I might have 10 or 20 meetings, either 30 minutes or an hour, some are in person, some are online. Even, pre-COVID, you still have online meetings because there's people, I work with Germany a lot. And so there's a lot of really early morning meetings for their time zone. And obviously you're not in person for those. But most of the meetings are really just internal discussions with other departments at Ford for me. That's probably a lot different for Alex. But I'll go to the vehicle maybe once or twice a week and do some testing and integration. But really a large part of my job is communication. You're talking to people and you're figuring things out together and making sure people are on the same page and people agree, and you're getting buy-in from the right stakeholders, so cybersecurity and connected vehicles. So communication is a huge skill for sure.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of piggyback of what Hamid was saying. So if you think of the development process of a vehicle, he's much further upstream of the vehicle process, whereas STA is a lot more, okay, the vehicle's been designed, now how are we going to produce this? So working at the supplier level, you develop relationships with suppliers who, so these are companies separate from Ford who will build individual components for the vehicle. So I work in trim and exteriors, so those are my commodities. So I don't know if you guys saw the unveiling of the new Bronco. Looking forward to that. It's a really cool, really cool, really cool truck. But one of the exciting things about being an STA is you get to work with the commodities. So my suppliers make the front fascia and the flares for the Bronco. So they do plastic injection molding. They injection mold the parts. They'll either have you'll have like a black grained finish or a painted finish depending on what version you get. And so it's just working with the supplier to make sure that they meet their deadlines to PPAP components. That's the term we use it for. And it goes through different phases of development, and you essentially have to be hooked onto your supplier, be in with them meetings, make sure that they're following through with everything, because the supply base, they can slip on some things, and you got to be in the know when like engineering changes come up. If there's production issues, you got to be the one to then take that information and say, all right, how are we going to develop a plan to make sure that we can deliver our commodities on time? So my role is very deadline based, and so there's a lot of pressure on that, especially with the amount of launches we have. I mean, we just launched the new F-150, we got the Mustang Mach-E, the Bronco is coming out next year. So it's an exciting time, but we have to make sure that we're working hard and making sure that our supply base is working with us, and we're developing solutions with them. So a little further downstream, but still, I've really enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, piggybacking off of Alex, I'm in the same kind of role with you. I work with suppliers almost on a daily basis. Mine is also a German-based supplier, so for antennas. So not too bad of early meetings, because when our 8 a.m. meetings, it's their 4 p.m. meetings, so good balance. But working at that level there and making sure that you keep on task of what they're doing and what you need to do is a really important process. And I forgot to mention that I'm in a rotational program. So I will switch out in this program in January. So it's a 2-year 4 rotations, so every 6 months. So like Jordan was mentioning, the acronyms, there are so many, and just being 3 months in, I am very lost sometimes, because they say it takes at least a solid year to get down to half the acronyms, possibly, because in the automotive industry, there's just so many parts. There are people in the company that you will never cross paths with. So just trying to learn every aspect is almost impossible, but it's really nice to know that it's so broad that you can do almost anything within the automotive industry. So yeah.
All right. So like I was mentioning, I do crash testing, front crash. I worked on 2016 Pilot, 2018 Odyssey. Those were kind of, we call them FMCs, full model change. So that's where everything's changing. So as a test engineer, most of about 50% of the time I'm down in the lab, and then 50% of my time is kind of desk work. And I guess the scope of the testing that we do, the tests come from 2 primary sources. One is the government, NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, that basically says, like, here's the test that basically it's the bare minimum that you need to pass to be able for cars to be roadworthy. And then in addition to that, there's kind of like above and beyond, if you've ever heard 5-star, 4-star, that comes from NHTSA as well, but it's kind of like consumer information. So kind of leading up to a full-scale crash test, there's going to be a bunch of smaller tests along the way. So we may start with, hey, we're looking at the knee airbags, and we want to tune in some small function of this component. And then once we get that to work the way we want it to, we'll migrate up to, we call it a sled, but it's basically we put the full vehicle on kind of a track, and then we launch it. But with a test like that, it's like you're just replacing the parts that you that are disposable, the airbags, the seat belts, the steering wheels, that kind of thing. You're not crashing a full car. And then finally, the big shebang is you crash the full car. So it's like a bunch of small tests leading up to the big one. And then, so for a full car development and front crash world, we may do, we kind of split things up into phases. So early on, there'll be like a planning phase. And that's where we're like, okay, here's what we think, here's what the car is going to look like, but how can we mock this up without having to build the car? So we may take like a current vehicle that's out there. We might rapid prototype some interior components, get some stuff modified. We have a whole fabrication department, and we try to basically approximate the future condition. So there's planning, and then there's, okay, now the parts are actually coming off the tools and we're assembling them. And then that's kind of like the verification phase. So yeah, it's, you know, let's say we run into a problem, that's when we'll be having meetings with, you know, with other groups. And one thing I found that was interesting in testing world, it's basically we're always trying to find a balance. For example, if we were doing like crash testing, like how I wanted to do it, where it's like the safest car that's, you know, like it would be built like a tank, right? Like, yeah, you know, it would be built like a tank. But then the fuel economy guys might be like, well, you know, like, hey, this amount of steel, like this is heavy. So basically the interesting thing is like, in engineering to come to the solution, which is the full vehicle, it's like you basically have to navigate between all these different competing requirements and find the optimum like solution right down the middle that basically everybody's requirements are satisfied.
I like the tank idea.
Yeah, it might not be very fast, might not be good on fuel economy, but yeah, like
You won't
be
die.
all right.
And I think this question is going to really open up a stir. And if you're in the chat as well, I see there's 21 people here. I just want to know, you guys are working on automotive. What's your favorite car? And if it's not from your company, I'm not gonna tell you guys. But my favorite vehicle is the Dodge Challenger. I love the Hellcat. I interned with Chrysler two summers, and did do a test drive, and I've been 0 to 80 in one before. It's a very nice vehicle. But I was just wondering, do you guys and gals have a favorite vehicle? Like I said, I won't tell if it's not from your company.
Well, let me first just say, Jordan, you come up to Michigan, you're gonna see a lot of Hellcats. So yeah. That's for one. I mean, it's hard to say what your favorite vehicle is, because, you know, I'm being a car guy myself. I appreciate not just Fords. I mean, you see what Hummer just did in revealing the Hummer EV, and I think that's pretty cool. So you just see what's out there and you like it. But I'll toot my own horn. I think we have a winner with the Bronco. Just saying. So.
Okay.
I can jump in here. So when I first moved out to Honda, you know, they paid to relocate us and move us out here. And at the time I was driving, it was a beater. Like the amount that they paid to move my car out there was like, that was worth way more than the car. But shortly after I moved out there, the car took a crap, and so I had to get a new one. And I was just hunting around on Craigslist, and I found a 93 Nissan 240SX, rear wheel drive, stick shift. And so I picked that car up, and yeah, you know, it's like I work for Honda, but hey, 240SX though, like, dude, that was a sick car. And yeah, man, I had some good times in that car. Basically, like out here in Ohio, we get some snow. So yeah, each winter I would get the winter tires, throw the Blizzaks in the rear wheel drive, and it's just like Drift City. Yeah, the 240, like that's gonna have a special place in my heart. Now, I was driving that car to work, like that was my daily driver back when it was like in the thick of development, you know, just crushing some hours. And like the starter motor went out, something like small. And I had been limping it along, fixing it, as it went. And like, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So like starter motor went out, called the scrapyard. I was like, yo, come pick this up. But in hindsight, I was like, dang it, I should have kept that car. Like, oh man, I missed that car. That was a good one.
No more car favorites. All right, cool. We have a question in the chat. And it says and this is from the electrical engineers. What is it like being an electrical engineer in the automotive industry? Did you get the field you wanted to work in?
I'll answer. So I don't think I said it, but I'm electrical engineering. And I, because I'm in a track rotational program, you do not get to pick your first rotation, but I get to pick my next 3. So being in the RF antenna realm, it is not as technical as one might think. So in undergrad, yeah, I did learn a little bit about RF, but not to the extent of where GM is using it. So I'm still learning. Not everything that I took from undergrad goes into what I'm doing right now. So throughout the process, you're continuously learning, and whatever you need to know will get taught to you. So am I doing exactly what I want at first? No, but that's why I get to be in this rotational program, and that's why they're so great. So if you get that opportunity, please do that. But I am still using, I guess, a little bit of my electrical engineering degree to some extent.
Can I jump in and mention one thing related to Kiana's comment? Yeah, you were saying it's like, yeah, you might not be using exactly what you learned in textbooks and stuff. And I think that's a great point because, yeah, when I started working in Honda, like I don't come from like a car guy background. Like I wasn't a car guy like before I started there. Like when I started there, what I knew is cars had like 4 wheels and an engine. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cars. But yeah, it's like, that's a great point. It's like, you will learn what you need to learn on the job, right? Like they're going to teach you. But one thing I would say is when I was in college, the way they split up the tests is basically, it was usually like 70% is problems, 30% is concepts, something like that. And I would say, like in hindsight, the most important part is the concepts. Like if you can just remember the concepts, like that's the stuff you should burn in your brain. Get the concepts down because like, yeah, when you go out there and you graduate, you're in industry, it's like you'll be able to Google stuff, figure out like problems and that kind of thing. But having that good foundation of like concepts burned into your brain, like that's, I would say, the most beneficial.
Yeah, I can chime in too, being an electrical engineer. I think there's so many. I mean, cars are there's so much electrical stuff on them. Like there's I think 150 million lines of code running on the F-150. 150. They had to make it nice and even. But there's so many. Dozens and dozens of ECUs on the car. There's so many electrical components, connectivity, cellular, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, ultra wideband. There's endless electrical things on the car, and there's not a shortage of things to work on. And I think it's just really interesting because you can always find something new to work on. And you can also, there's a lot of new things that people haven't thought of before, and you can even patent it. I think most car companies, you can, they want you to patent your ideas so that well, there's a lot of funny things about that because a lot of times you don't really license it from other companies, but you can either prevent other companies from working on it, or you can come to an arms race and say, all right, I'm not going to sue you if you don't sue me. Or there's all sorts of funny things that happen, but it's kind of neat getting patents with your own ideas.
Got some more answered questions in the chat for you guys. This one is, what would you all say was the first major step you took in starting a career while you were a student?
That's a good one. See, for me, like I said, I always knew I wanted to be automotive, so I think I had that focus to say, all right, I want to look for opportunities in the industry and apply there. But I want to keep it a little more general for those who maybe don't know what they want to do at this time, because I certainly felt that way. And I think for me, the first thing I would say is look for help. And you know, I'm not just saying this. I'm not just saying this to be nice. I truly mean it. Like people like Laura Lemza and people at the career services, they have so much knowledge on the job application process, how to write an interview, how to do an interview, how to write a resume, how to write a cover letter. Those are the foundational things to getting a job. And I had no idea how to do those things coming into college. So if even if you feel like you're good at them, just go in, have your resume reviewed. Just look how to write a good cover letter. Do some mock interviews. Just practice, 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 and always, refine those skills. Because I think that for me, it wasn't, you can want to be in an industry like I was. I think I always said like my goal was to be in this field, but I didn't get there without, first getting those foundations of, being a good candidate and how to promote yourself as a good candidate. Because you need to, it's not just about the resume. It's not just about that. It's the little things, like make sure you're following up on emails, reaching out and networking. There's so many things that you may not know. And the people at the career services are there to help you for that. So if you haven't, scheduled an appointment with them at this point, please do it. It really, that they steered me in the right direction, gave me the tools I needed to be here. So that's what I would do.
That's great advice. I would say when I was applying, and I was, as I was my last semester there, like here's the thing, you guys are there now, students, you guys are there now, you're paying tuition, and part of that tuition is going to these career services. So it's like that's your money going for these services. And in the career center there, I did do some mock interviews where they they ask you questions, they're videotaping you, and then you can watch it back. Of course, you could probably do this from the comfort of your own home too, but it's nice to have the resources there. As far as like what was the first step that I took in the career process, I think like my first 3 years at school, it was just, school, party, that kind of thing. And it wasn't, I think it was my junior year that it was like, okay, I guess I better get an internship here. So I'm not sure what years, all the attendees are, or the people listening to this in the future, but definitely try to get as much experience as you can while you are in school. Go out and get those internships. That was a great experience.
We have another one. This one's directed to Kiana. What are the other projects among the rotational program that you are going to be a part of? Is there any specific projects that you looking forward to?
Actually, yes. So in GM, before you finish your 2 years of being here, you have to be Black Belt certified for DFSS. So that's Design for Six Sigma. So I'm currently working on getting my green belt. And so I am in the process of starting a project for my green belt, which is really cool because it will allow me to actually leave the comfort of my home to go out to one of our test facilities in Milford, Michigan. So I'm excited about that. I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, I can't talk about too much about it, but Yeah.
We'll keep rolling right along. This is a question for, I guess, everybody. As a student, he's done a lot of work with cars since high school, and just wants to know, some of maybe the hands-on work, working like engine work, suspension work, and electrical work, like body work on his car, may not be considered as like engineering skills, but he worked at West Rock in the R&D department, in their material testing lab as an intern this summer. And he would just like to know is how should he market himself in the automotive engineering field if that's something that he's considering wanting to do in the future? What tips and tricks do you guys have for them?
I can jump in here. I mean, I'd say that's a great foundation, like hands-on experience. It's, you know, it's like it shows your interest in the field. And you, sorry, what did you say the internship was in?
R&D at West Rock in one of their testing labs.
Okay. I thought I heard like materials, something, but
yeah, material testing lab. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I guess I would say like here's the thing. When you're let's say you got an internship at something like not related to auto. Like mine, for example, I worked at the coal power plant in for Dominion, which was like 20 minutes outside of Richmond, Virginia. How you would market yourself is like, okay, through your engineering degree and through your work experience, your internship or co-op, you know, you've basically developed this skill set where you're able to solve problems, right? You're able to learn, you're able to solve problems. And if you don't know how to solve them, then you can learn, you can figure it out. So yeah, I would say it's like basically, you know, focus on the fact that you're able to apply your technical skills and solve problems and learn.
Yeah, I'll add to that. As someone that was not interested in the automotive industry at all, like your resume does not have to just look straight automotive. You don't have to have interned with all the big three companies. You didn't need to build a car in your garage. Like my background is I interned with all defense contractors. So Thor Solutions, which works for aircraft carriers for the Navy, and then Newport News Shipbuilding. So the whole time that I was in my interview process for GM, they were just asking me questions about that. The interviewer was just like, an aircraft carrier, wow, how does that, like, they were just interested in it. And I guess in me having knowledge and understanding and showing that I learned and grasped something, that was what they were more attentive to than the fact that I know nothing about cars. Which I didn't coming in at all. Like you said, I just knew they had four wheels and an engine. So it is not super important to tailor your resume to the automotive industry. It's to be confident in what you know and what you've done and showing that you know how to apply yourself to any situation.
And that was a great segue into the next question. It was, how hard was the interviewing process and how detrimental is it for your chances to get hired if you're straight up and don't really know a certain thing that they're requiring for the job, but you know you can learn, and then how can you convey that to the interviewer?
Hey, Jordan, I'd like to hop in and ask, but before that,
You cut out. You can hop in, but you got to cut back in.
He froze.
We lost you, Alex.
Lost them. This happens a lot during the day during class.
You're back.
wait, can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, but we didn't hear anything that you said, if you said anything.
Oh, okay. So, okay, if at any point I start breaking up, let me know. Because you're coming out of college, you know, I would say that from my personal experience with the interview is that the questions were fairly general. And there really wasn't anything really job specific that they had asked me during my interview. And I think recruiters understand it. If you have that previous experience before, and it gives you a leg up in terms of maybe giving you that opportunity for the interview. But once you're in the interview for an entry level position, instead of focusing on, I'm not really sure.
Lost you again.
Come up with stories.
Well, I guess while I wait for Alex, does anyone else want to? Oh, he's back again. I don't know.
Yeah, I can jump in. So I would definitely agree. My interview at Ford, the 2 interviews I had, they were completely behavioral. They asked me like what I was interested in working in, but other than that, it was mostly, you know, the questions getting at like how do I work on a team and how do I work with other people. I think Ford, like that's one of their biggest problems really isn't like people's technical knowledge, because you can pick up technical knowledge, you know, if you need it for your specific job. Their problems are like interpersonal and like communication. Somebody forgot to loop somebody in for the last 6 months, and so there's a huge delay now. It's really more behavioral at Ford from what I've seen and what my friends have seen for the interview process.
Yeah, to add to that, yeah, for my interview process, it was very STAR formulated. So the situation, task, what is it? A and resolution, whatever A is. But what was it? No, Laura?
Action.
Action. Thank you.
And result.
Yep, and results. So that was what my process was. It was just name a time when discuss what you would do when whatever. So it was not technical in the least. It was really it was long, but it was having a conversation with another person and just discussing on the things that you know.
Am I back at all or?
Yes.
Hey, third time's a charm.
Oh my gosh, shit. Sorry about that. I was having
You're
Wi-Fi problems. Sorry,
welcome.
what did I where did I cut off? I think I said like tell stories about
Yeah,
adversity.
we're talking about the stories.
That's what it comes down to. And it's a combination of, to me, the interview process is this: show that you really want to be there, like genuinely show you want to be there. So like I'm going through the, oh crud, I lost the Q&A in the chat when I joined, but some guy said he works on cars. Great, tell a story about that. And that shows tell a story about when you were working on one of those cars. The interviewer, they're going to love to hear that because they're going to see that you have that automotive background and you're interested. And so it's a combination of interest, the drive, but what's your substance? You know, you can talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk. So what did you actually do, and how did you add value to the company, and how did you overcome challenges? That's the two of those combined together. That's how you have a good interview. That's what make the goal with any interview is you want those people when they're done with the interview, because they're going to interview like 10 candidates a day. It's going to be a long day for them. They want to be like, hey, you know what? That Jordan guy, man, Jordan, man, do you remember that story he said? And they're like, yeah, I think he'd be a really good candidate for us. That's the goal. You want to make that impression. And so it's a combination of that drive, that interest you have, and also showing, hey, they actually did some stuff that really get work done. Even if it wasn't automotive, doesn't matter. We just want candidates who want to be here, want to work in automotive. If they can show that they've done that before, you got a great shot.
Sounds good. And I know, so we talked about interviewing process, the pre-work, we talked about in work and what you guys are doing. And I know for some, you guys just graduated, but I guess looking back on the time that you spent so far, would you choose this path again? And like I said, off record, we won't tell the respective companies, but what do you like and dislike about the role and industry that you're in right now?
I would say I would absolutely choose the path again. I mean, I feel like I have the coolest job I could have wished for, and hopefully everybody feels like that. But I just get to work on a lot of things that are really brand new, and I'm creating things from scratch. Probably the biggest downfalls are like I can't talk to people about a lot of the things I'm working on, and it can take 3 to 6 years for features I work on to get to production on a vehicle that people can actually buy. So you have to deal with delayed gratification. It's also possible for features to get scrapped along the way. Like you worked on it for like 2 years, and then somewhere in the depths of the company, management says, no, this is like either for technical reasons or business reasons, this is not something that we're going to put into production. So that can be disheartening. But overall, I mean, at least being in research, I think it's just a lot of fun, and you get to see a lot of interesting work. Even if you're not working on it, you can see your coworkers working on really like cutting edge things. That's just really cool to me. So I would absolutely take the same path again.
Yeah, I would I would also take the same path again. Yeah, it's like when I graduated, to be honest, I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, I knew there was a couple things I was like I didn't necessarily want to work in oil and gas. I didn't want to work in defense, blowing things up. But like, honestly, like I didn't know what I wanted to do. And yeah, it's like I applied to a bunch of different jobs and happened to, you know, get an offer for crash testing. I was like, wait a second, that sounds kind of cool. But yeah, it's been great. And I think if you end up in any engineering job, if you've made it this far and you're now getting ready to graduate with an engineering degree, then probably to a certain extent, you enjoy running into problems and then solving them, right? That's what engineering is. It's like, we want, you know, we want to, whatever the problem is, I guess just speaking in crash testing land, it's like, we want this chunk of steel to stop the pelvis, but not exceed a certain load. Okay, how can we design the shape to do that? So yeah, for me, it's like, I don't regret it. And I think if you've made it this far in engineering and you enter into the engineering career, it's like, that's the part that you're going to find gratifying. It's like you run into a problem and it's like, okay, how are we going to figure this out? And then for me, my favorite part about it is, you know, kind of taking a blank canvas approach of like, okay, if time and resources are infinite, like what would we do? How are we going to fix this? And then eventually, you know, you have to whittle it down to, okay, based on schedules or based on budget, you know, this is the optimal solution. But that's the gratifying part. It's like you run into a problem, and like for me on crash test day, it's like, you know, let's say it's, you know, middle of development. We've tested a few things. We run a crash test. We thought it was going to work. And then boom, like there's something out of left field. Wait, what? Like that happened? Hold on. What? And at first it's like everybody's initial like reaction is like, dang it. Like it didn't pass. Like what? Oh man, like, dang it. Something didn't meet the target. But then like, you all come together, us, other departments who are involved, we all come together and we all like throw our brain power down on it. And it's like, okay, how are we going to navigate the challenge? How are we going to fix the problem? And then when you get there, at least in my world, it's okay, now we get there. We spent all this time, component tests, lead tests, CAE, which is like the computer engineering, computer simulation of the component. We spent all this time, everybody's invested in it, and then you run the final test and it's like, boom, it worked. Yes. Like, man, like that's just a gratifying feeling. I love that about it. And yeah, so for me, there's like, yeah, I love the path that I took, and I'm happy to, you know, continue down this road.
Yeah, wouldn't change a thing for me. I think for me, I've just always been a car guy. And I think that throughout my time at college, you know, there were so many different opportunities that you get. I mean, companies coming to the career fair, and, you know, it's just one of those things where I truly just didn't settle. I just had my focus on, this is where I wanted to be in my life. And so if you guys even have a little bit of that in your head where it's like, hey, you know what, I'd like, you know, don't let anything stop you from doing that. Just go for it. And by you guys being here today in this panel event, you're already, you know, you're doing the equivalent of like going into the gym after hours when the rest of the team is left. You guys are here getting extra reps in and learning. And I hope that the information we've been giving you today has been helpful. But that's what it comes down to. Is just you always have to learn more, reach out more to people. And people that we say, well, I'm not really sure what I want to do, but if you have that little bit of you, it's like, hey, I'd really like to do this. Just say, I want to do that. I'm going to go do that, because I really found myself in these times of career fairs kind of saying, I don't know if I really want for this. And I was kind of discouraged by that. But instead of being, being discouraged by not getting what I wanted, I went to go find what I did want. And so it's just, it can feel a little stressful, but I promise you that if you even have that drive that says like, hey, I want to do this, that's going to help guide you. That's going to help you, and that's going to drive you to make the best resume you can and have, prepare for the best interview of your life. That's what it's all about. So my path I got here on this path towards sticking to what I truly believed in and where I wanted to work. And so wouldn't change that for the world.
Sounds good. And we have a couple more in the chat. What's the average percentage of time of your time at work is spent at the office / on the computer versus at test sites or doing hands-on work?
I could start off 100% at home. I want to be in person so badly. But that's COVID right now. Now, to say that it's impossible to not be in lab is a lie, because there are some people in my track rotational program that are in lab about, I would say 30%, and then 70% at home. Because if their job requires testing, that's something that they'll need to go in for. So you can make it what you want, but I am 100% at home right now.
Yeah, as a test guy, I'm probably like 50% down in the lab, like working with the technician, setting things up. We have to set the crash test dummies, or we may need to set up the component test or what have you. So it's about 50% in the lab, and it's fun. You get down there, you're helping, set things up and seeing it in person. And then 50% is, at my desk, I could be doing whatever, a multitude of things, summarizing tests that we've already done, planning and laying out schedules for stuff that's coming down the pipeline, managing resources. Do we have the vehicles necessary? Do I need to order some parts? How many parts do I have down in my storage area? So, it's split pretty evenly. And I would say when I was applying for jobs, like out of those 300 something applications I sent out, like 90 something % were for design positions. Like I really thought that I wanted to do design because during school, I was doing, SolidWorks and like making fun models in SolidWorks. And I was like, yo, this is cool. Like, okay, I like this. But yeah, I don't know. Then I got into test, and I would say like I really enjoy the hands-on aspect of it. If I was in design, it's like you're in 3D computer land the whole time, which don't get me wrong, like that is fun as well. Like I still do some we use CATIA. I still do some CATIA here and there, but like, I don't know. I like getting down there and like going to the spot and like touching the part. And it's so funny too. Like when you're looking at these parts in like CATIA or SolidWorks and you're like, oh, like that's 3 millimeters away from that. Like it's funny oftentimes, because then you actually go down and see the physical part, which had, been blown up on your screen, and you're like, oh, that's the thing. Okay. Yeah, so I think a couple of the other panelists here have mentioned they've been on these rotation programs, and I think that's great. If you guys, potential candidates out there, potential students graduating, like if you can get into those rotation programs, that's probably a great opportunity if you can, because then you get to dabble, you get to dip your fingers in a couple different things and find out what you enjoy.
And is leading into another, we love talking about work life and culture, especially in the COVID times. I know a lot of things have changed because of COVID and just working from home and then having your hours cut working in the field. but I know specific industries have specific expectations. What are the expectations you experience in this field, and how is the intensity of the work, the hours, and the culture at your locations?
I can jump in here. I would say that that's a great question. And as you're applying to all these different places, something we didn't really have when I was graduating in 2010 was glassdoor.com. And that's where, like, that's a website where it's, you'll have people that are at the company, like reviewing the company, telling you like, hey, what is the work life balance? What is like, what do you like about it? What do you dislike about it? So definitely check out those resources, glassdoor.com. And thankfully at Honda, like Honda is great for work-life balance. Like I remember when I first started here, it's like they've got a flexible start time. So it's like you basically need to show up between 6 and 10 and then work your 8 hours. Yeah. So like me coming straight out of college, like, I'm used to staying up late, that kind of thing. I'm like, wait, I don't need to show up until like I could show up at 10 and like this is okay. Okay. So that was great. And but in general, like my company, as far as like flex time, it's like they're very flexible. They're very flexible. And now with COVID, having to do work from home and stuff, and they're recognizing it's like, yeah, people have kids, they got to take their kids to school, and it's like everybody's trying to juggle all sorts of chaos, and thankfully they've been very understanding, with flexibility. But what I would definitely say is like look into the company that you're applying for, and see like what do the people that work there, what do they think about it? Because like that's where you're getting ready to go potentially, and like you want to make sure that you can jive with that intensity.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also look into within the company, because it's going to vary. Like where I'm in research, and intensity and hours they vary a lot depending on whether there's a lull or there's a storm. If you're getting really close to a deadline, things are going to get crazy. But there might be times when it's not as bad, and you can leave at 4 or whatever. You need to go on a hike. I found kind of that in research at Ford, at least, you have the option to like you can cruise by and like not do your best, but you can also really give it your all and show people like how awesome you are. And I mean, I recommend you do that because that's gonna make your career grow. But there is like leniency, and there's a lot of work-life balance in research at Ford. You make it what you can.
I don't know. Can you guys see the questions in the chat, or can they see those?
I don't think I can see any
I can,
In the Q&A, can you guys see the Q&A?
I
Yeah.
can.
I know it's one for the Ford, the two, and we're running lower on time. And I wanted to make sure everyone's questions were getting answered.
So Hamid and Alex, would you type an answer to Milton? Because it's pretty specific and we're running out of time.
Sure. Let me see. Oh, sorry, I had to reconnect. I had to reconnect again. I'm actually on my phone right now. Can Hamid, can you see his question?
Yes, I'm not going to be great at answering it because it's asking about Ford performance. All these positions based out of Ford itself, or they're specific to the motorsports team, like IMSA, NASCAR, Rally? This is the first question. The second question is, are the opportunities for growth existent within a position at Ford, Honda, GM? Is there potential to not sit at a desk all day, every day? So that's not specific to Ford. And the third question is, this is more of a question of curiosity, but during non-pandemic times, what does your workspace look like? So the first one is about the Ford performance.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm actually looking into that myself. From what I will say this about Ford Performance is that yes, it's beyond just the racing teams at Ford. It's a very small part of Ford. It's a very small group of team that works on specific parts. So they're not doing full engineering work on the new F-150. They're doing the engineering work on the parts to the Raptor, such as, the shocks, seats. With the Mustang, they're going to work on developing the new supercharged V8s and that kind of stuff. So they're very commodity specific focus, not so full engineering focus from what I've gathered here at Ford. I'm looking to get into that group myself because I have a big passion for that. It's kind of tricky because it's such a small group. So it's like, you kind of have to know people to get into it. It's certainly possible. I wouldn't hold your breath in that they don't really put a lot of open positions out there for like people just coming out of college. So you kind of have to get into the Ford system before you get into that. But certainly if you have that passion, once you're in the Ford system, like I'm doing, I'm trying to network with people who have worked for Ford Performance, who are in it, to try to see what opportunities are out there. And I'm always keeping an eye out, like when positions do open potentially. So you got to be persistent with it, but just know that it is a very small part of Ford. What was the second question?
Second question was like, are there opportunities for growth existent within a position at Ford, Honda, and GM? Is there potential to not sit at a desk all day? So it's to everybody.
You guys can answer that question. I think know when the vaccine would come out. So I don't.
I mean, oh, sorry, you were gonna say?
No, I said all joke. I'm just jokes aside. You can go ahead.
Oh, well, I would say that for the majority of it's hard to get that 100% like in the field kind of work. I mean, it's some component of your job is going to be desk work. But like you mentioned with the growth, like the big thing is just get into the system. So like if you for me, I didn't know anything about STA or supplier technical assistance, but I knew I wanted to work for Ford. So now that I'm part of the Ford network here and I'm able to network with people, I can ask people, say, hey, you do this, or that's a little more in the field. Tell me more about it. So again, it's just like I'm back in college. I'm getting all that information about what opportunities are out there, and I'm finding, okay, what would I like to do? So you might not get the opportunity you want right out of college. Like, I mean, what I'm doing right now, is this what I want to do for the rest of my career? I'm not sure. All I know is that I'm just looking and I'm searching for, because especially with the stay-at-home, I'm looking for opportunities at the plant. And I know that there's divisions within STA that have me working at the plant. So that's the thing. You always got to, even if you don't get what you want, learn what you can from the job there. But with a big company, you always have room to grow and places to explore.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, I don't want to hold anyone past the 7 o'clock mark. I just want to take this time to thank everybody for coming out. And thank you especially to our panelists. I know you guys have busy weeks, so taking this time out of your day to talking to a VCU student like myself and to the other VCU students on the call is very appreciative. And I'm pretty sure Laura, and I think I saw Anita on the call as well. Hopefully do this in the future. Hopefully in person one day where we can continue the automotive talk. So I do want to extend that thank you to each one of you guys on this call. And Laura, I don't know if you had anything to say as well.
I just want to reiterate, thank you. You guys are awesome. And I love the enthusiasm for the students. So obviously what you're doing is considered really cool. So thank you for coming back and sharing that with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Feel free to reach out to myself and